How did I stop? Never mind. Actually, I just fucking do this. Yo. Or I cut this part out, maybe. Ah, shit. No, I can't. Yo, what is up? To my one and only viewer, probably. What was that? And I get to la party. I'm telling you,
My guy.
My guy is crazy.
It's like the Grinch says, what is up, my guy?
Ma?
Grinch.
The cringe. Yo, what is up, my guy? That's what the cringe says, apparently. Anyway, let's jump right into Euro JPY. Quick fire one, same as yesterday. We still have not left, or we have left this 4 hour, right? But we have not made any progress whatsoever on breaking out the internal high. So even though today I technically was not trading, there was nothing to really follow within here because we are still waiting either for the break of the swing low here or the break of the swing high. So nothing in there that has been missed out on. And Euro USD quickly had a scan and something, excuse me, interesting in here. But we do have this as a POI. And okay, we broke out of the 15-minute swing high, right, which then means this is now bullish on the M15. We are now bullish on the M15, and then after the break we had this break over here and then a pullback in, right, testing this tiny bit of zones in there, and then it goes up. Then we have a chalk right here, and this was at 6 a.m. is a chalk right there. The market then goes all the way down into here. So once we have a chalk and then we come into a POI, right, even though this may not be like one of the best POIs, I'd say, the way it comes into here is interesting, right, because you have this POI and then you have the chalk. So if you are to follow from here, you would obviously then be looking for a 5-minute entry, right? And then if you go to the M5, we do in fact have a strong liquidation, right? Because we have a chalk on the M5 right here. I don't have, you just use the M1 chalk, which doesn't show. But we do have a chalk on the M5 right there, and then a strong liquidation. And then the candle moves up. Even though it is a big candle, it is still valid, right, because it's within the POI. And then you would have had your 1:3.3 right there, which would then have ended in a profit, right? This one is kind of annoying because you really don't know in real time what you would have done or I would have done in here. Would I have still had the foresight, right, to say, okay, this is sort of a valid POI, we just had the break, so phase 2A plays are not a bad idea. We did come up of this 4 hour right here, but nothing too scary because it essentially did not actually create a new low, and we did have a 4 hour IBOS here as well. So I think there was a little bit of confluence being positive for this trade, so it actually is like valid. and you do have a strong liquidation on the M5, so which makes it all the more better. But as always, this happens on a day where I'm not on the charts and I miss out again. This has been a recurring problem. A little bit disheartening, but it's okay. We'll record this as part of like good setups. Not the best, I think, 50-50 honestly, but valid nonetheless. It did work out in the end, so yeah, it is actually a missed trade. First one of the month, I think. There were no other valid ones. And then GPUSD, we had a break yesterday already. Then this has pretty much just been like internal structure. So coming to this morning, you would have had an IBOS right there, 15-minute internal low right there. And then yeah, once we pull back, there is no definite good looking zone in there, right? So it would have been hard to pick out a trade in there. There was no break up here to make this an IBOS, right? If there was a break there to make this an IBOS and this the internal low here, then obviously we would have been looking for the POI in here, and that did not happen, which does not make any POI in there valid, and so nothing on GPUSD. Like if you would have wanted to use like these buy to sell wicks here, I guess you could have used that. It does come into these buy to sell wicks, but really not the best, really not the best. So I think I probably would have just been sat on my hands with this one. We'll see if there are continuations or a pullback tomorrow. And then USD CAD, yesterday we had an IBOS there, 15-minute IBOS, which then means this is the internal low here, and then the eternal high is still holding right there. We do have sweeps of liquidity, but no break at all. And then coming into today, after Asian session, you would have had an IBOS, so you would have been looking for sells, right, as part of the 15-minute pullback as well, which does make them valid. Really no interesting POI. Maybe this here. Maybe that there. This buy to sell here is not that interesting because what is this? So what is it reacting off of here? So this wouldn't have been like that interesting to me. Plus you would have had a chalk right there, and then would you have a 5-minute? Okay, we've come in right there, low liquidation right there, and then you have your strong liquidation, but you don't have a valid M5 candle closure, so there wouldn't have been a valid trade in there anyway. And then coming into here, obviously I'd want to wait for the break here. I would have been looking for the break of this, but this was only a sweep, so this does not actually make this a valid POI in there. I would have been looking for a breaking close like right here, and then the reaction makes it iffy, right? You don't have, is this your POI or this giant wick right here? this would have complicated things. And then when your POIs are complicated like this, rather go to the M5 and look for the strong liquidation in there, of which we have this movement up, movement down, strong liquidation there. Right? Yeah, movement down, movement up, down. Oof. Like exactly my point. If it looks like this, if it looks like this and not like this, right? Where you have a POI, and then you have a clear move up, right? You have a clear move down, a clear sweep, and then a sweep of this low within the POI, then this is valid, right? But if you have something like this where you trying to zoom in, right? Your POI is up here, and then you wanna, this is your move up, and then the move down and the move up is in the same move. If it's iffy, then rather not do it, because even the POI is not even a strong POI. Then right here, it's iffy. You just don't want to mess with that. And then as you can see, it just ends up getting swept, and not great price action in here. I think would wait for a little bit better and see what ends up happening tomorrow. But as always, like I do say, like the iffy ones, you end up probably losing with these iffy trades. Even though the Euro USD one is kind of iffy, right, with the POI picking, but it's not as bad as that one. This is a pivot. You can clearly see the market pivots right here and moves up. Momentum clearly comes in right here. On the other one, where's the momentum? Right, because you have these large wicks here, and this is GPSD. I meant on this one, on this POI. Yes, market starts pushing down, but a giant wick right there, internal bar right there, pushes down a little bit, comes like, it's not really clear. So these ones, I think it's good to avoid. But otherwise, kinda a little bit sad that we did miss out on this Euro USD. But we'll try and get back on the ball from tomorrow and see, maybe find something in there. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Peace.